Hello, everyone. I believe I am live. Great. So, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thank you to Llewellyn for having me, and thanks to all of you for being here. I'm so excited to see so many people here for Defensive Magic and Spirituality for Tough Times. I have a feeling that more than a few of you might be feeling a little stressed out this year. So, for folks not familiar with my work, my books, writings, and classes often focus on the intersection of spirituality, magic, politics, and reclaiming personal and community power. So, when I was thinking about something accessible that could easily be spoken of in just 30 minutes, I knew that this topic would be the one because of all of the ideas raised today. Any of them could be greatly expanded upon in your own time to hopefully help you fight back against the chaos and restore some of your personal peace. So, with that, next slide, please. We'll dive in. Great. So, while I'm coming from this at an angle of all of the primarily social and civil unrest, because that's a primary stressor for so many people right now, especially in the United States, any of this stuff can be applied for tough times with family, medical emergency, a loss, or really any number of crises or personal strife in your life. And tough and chaotic times don't just have effects on the body and minds, but our spirits as well. So that's sort of how I'm approaching this work. All of those things intersect, of course. So, with that, here's some of the main psychic effects that these times can have on our spirits. Fatigue and low energy, I always put that right at the top. Obviously, this is a mental and physical effect too, but we need to keep in mind that fatigue and low energy also have psychic effects that really kind of have overarching consequences on our whole energy bodies and how we move in the world. Internal noise. So, what I mean by that is you might notice in your meditation practice, if you have one, hopefully you do, that it's more difficult than normal to quiet that internal noise for yourself, even for experienced meditators. I know that I've been struggling with that quite a bit this year, and I've been doing regular meditation going on 25 years now. So, don't get too down on yourself if you're having trouble there. Cracked shields. If you have a regular psychic shielding practice, and you really should, you might notice by the end of the day that those feel weaker or even cracked by the end of the day if you're kind of checking in energetically on where you are. Or you might notice that any talismanic jewelry is taking more hits for you. So those are those hematite rings that they seem to crack and pop off randomly. Might not be so random. Becoming bound up. So, what I mean by this is that all of us tend to tie ourselves into uh, energetic knots and experiences every day. But a healthy spirit can easily unravel those ties as we move about our day, our week, etc. So, when you feel closed in or a tightness in your shoulders, that's usually an indicator that you're bound up. Cleansing work can help with that, and we'll discuss that in a moment. Weakened psychic vision. So, has it become more difficult to discern and read your divinations if you have a divination practice? Or on the broader scale, do you seem to be having bad luck with making gut decisions or find that it's a little more difficult than normal to trust your intuition? And then finally, it's a little more aimed towards magic workers out there, but difficulty manifesting or performing spell casting. This is a symptom of your power either being bound up, scattered, unfocused. From the Anderson Fairy tradition of witchcraft that I practice within, we might call that being disaligned or out of alignment with ourselves and with the universe around us. Right. Next slide, please. All right. So before we get into some remedies, I want to touch briefly on escapism. When doing this work, it's really essential that we not fall into escapism or trying to hide from or avoid the troubles of the world. As spiritual people or witches or magicians, whoever you may be, it's really crucial that we know that we are an intricate part of how the world functions. We're always in relationship with the world. Very common phrase, the political is always personal, and vice versa. So when I say self-care in this context, it's really important to know that I mean caring for the self so that you can continue to care for others and the world around you. And spirituality is a team sport. So nothing exists in a vacuum. When you care for yourself, you're not only setting a good example for others, but to get a little woo here, forgive me, you're sort of raising the vibration up of the whole world around you. Um, Committed spiritual people often tend to notice that people experiencing strife and trauma tend to gravitate towards us because we're emitting that nice, high aligned vibration. So, for the benefit of yourself and everyone else, we want to keep those vibes vibing. Great. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so when I say defensive magic and spirituality, I don't just mean things like shielding, protection spells, things like that. All of those are absolutely wonderful, and you should include them. But in the aim to protect our peace, I propose a more holistic approach that cares for and defends your spirit by healing it at the same time, if that makes sense, right? So we're doing healing work, we're doing protective work, we're doing care work, kind of all of this simultaneously. And so with that, I was kind of thinking about what are the central pillars of my own methods of both care for myself and engagement with the world. So I came up with these here, and obviously the any of these topics could be a whole session all on their own. But spiritual baths and other forms of purification. So there are many recipes from many traditions, both magical and spiritual in general, all over the world. The tried and true for me is a small handful of sea salt that I'm blessing, charging in light, sprinkling it into my bath water, perhaps with some sort of prayer or incantation, or simply a statement of intent. Uh, some people will dip sequentially in the water and then get right out of the tub, let yourself air dry. Others feel it's better for them to soak in there a little bit. There's some traditional plant matters that are often used in purification baths like this. Really common ones include rue, hyssop, lemongrass, rosemary. Again, there are whole books written with a lot of wonderful recipes about this. But I'm a big fan of keeping it simple whenever possible. Warding. So many folks are familiar with very basic types of personal warding and shielding. If you are, then this will be very familiar to you. But if not, what I mean is fortifying your existing energy body. My early methods of learning that was what we call the golden egg shield, right? So, how you're going to do that is you're going to sit in kind of a meditative position that's comfortable for you. You'll go into a nice calming meditation or even possibly a light trance. And you're going to want to sense or feel where your energy bodies are around you. If it feels very kind of close to your physical body, take in a breath, exhale, let those energy bodies expand a bit. And then from there, you're going to kind of, and if you don't kind of visually, physically see this before you, that's totally fine. You're going to use your imagination and imagine what that energy body would look like. And as you're doing that, as you're breathing out golden, shielding light all around you. I use gold because it's a wonderful protective solar color, but it's not so harsh in its protection as bright white light, as that color can often prevent good things that we're calling into our energy bodies from getting through. So we're building a nice firm membrane of sorts. Environmental warding. What I mean by environmental is the stuff and the situations around you. In particular, I think about and worry a lot about electronics as someone who is surrounded by many electronics all day, every day, and I'm constantly looking at a screen. I'm very concerned about this. My basic little magic hack, tried and true method, is putting a piece of obsidian on or around most of my electronics, and that can help with energetic shielding, as well as shielding you from the temptation to pick up the phone, the tablet, and doom scroll all day, as many of us are tempted to do, including myself. Contact with spirits. So, building a team of spiritual allies is absolutely crucial, in my opinion. This is particularly useful for times when you feel ill or so drained or so unwilling to do this work, or you're in a state of absolute panic and crisis. So I'm thinking when really horrible, dramatic life events fall down, oftentimes the least thing that you're focused on is how can I get to my office from a personal meditation shrine and do this energetic work. It's good to take time to do that if you can, but if you cannot, look to those spiritual allies to help you. And to the above, those relationships have to be maintained. That's where offerings come in, a very common idea among all sorts of pagan traditions in particular. Foods, wines, bits of incense are all great traditional offerings, but they can also be donations to civil and charitable organizations. For example, many who work with the goddess Hecate will donate to their local food pantry or homeless shelter, as unhoused folks are often associated with that goddess. So you kind of get the idea there. You can be creative, but really your goal is to create a sort of mutual reciprocity between you and the world of spirit. Right. So presence through cycles, remaining attuned to the changing seasons, the phases of the moon, and even the weather. I say that right as a beautiful thunderstorm claps around me right now. All of that helps us stay grounded and reminds us that whatever chaos is unfolding around you, the world is still turning. I'm not necessarily talking about sort of elaborate pagan style seasonal celebrations, although those are wonderful. But really, in the simpler scale, I'm thinking of paying attention to when is the new moon this month, the full moon. At the very minimum, I'm looking at those things. This new moon, I'm letting go of all that does not serve me. On that full moon, I'm pulling in manifestation, protective work, all of that. Kind of helps to externally keep you present. Okay. Seeking beauty, finally. So one of my early mentors, T. Thornton Coyle, often speaks of their own daily practice of taking a walk and noticing beautiful things in their neighborhood. So full credit to Thorn for that. I began that practice some years ago, and I cannot describe the enormous improvement to my mental and psychic health. Really life changing. And what you'll do is take a step outside. This works whether you're in a rural area or in a city. Gentle, slow stride or roll. And I'm looking at small, little, beautiful things that you wouldn't notice if you were just kind of in a rush or commuting or whatever. That little flower that's poking through the concrete, or the way that the wind is moving through the leaves. Oftentimes, it'll just be one little trip around the block if that's all I have time for. And of course, if I have time, a longer walk is always nice. So those are kind of my key pillars there. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. All right, warning signs and when to act. This icon looks a little more dire than I intended it. But these are just some things to use as kind of your own personal litmus test when you're checking in with yourself. I have a proactive weekly divination practice. I really recommend that. Forewarned is forearmed, or however the saying goes. But I like to place the focus of divination on myself because that's all that I can control is myself. And I put some sample questions up on the slide for questions that I typically ask my cards and my runes, or just checking in with my intuition. Other warning signs can include stress not being as easily managed as it used to be. This is particularly relevant to meditation practice. If you're finding that you're doom scrolling, nightmares are obviously a sign of some sort of mental affliction or strife. They could be, or just general busyness in your life. But I also consider them possible indicators of psychic affliction, spirit feeling misaligned. And then finally, this is more specific to the magic workers out there, but magical or manifestation work, spell work, misfiring or feels lackluster. If you feel that your spells, your manifestations are not quite packing the punch that they used to, might be a sign that you want to take a beat and look at those methods of care that I mentioned. All right, next slide, please. Oh, I already got it. All right, so whether you use all of those strategies here, some of them, or none of them at all, my hope is that you'll put all of this together into some sort of what many call a daily practice schedule. So the thing about daily practice is that it's better for it to be simple, sustainable, and regular than super elaborate and fancy to the degree that it falls to the wayside after a couple weeks. This is often like a physical exercise routine. You know, people first starting out with that sort of thing, it's good to, learn about stretching and form and all of that rather than just go and hardcore at the weights and the cardio all at once. But you get the metaphor there. So start simple. Add things in after you build the habit up. I change my daily practice around all the time because you will want to pull in different practices that suit you for different times. So sometimes my daily practice can be very scaled down. At the least, I really try to keep a regular cleansing and purification and shielding practice up. And everything else, if I can weave that in, then that's a sign that I'm probably going to have a much better week. So for me, the morning is the easiest time because I'm already sipping my coffee. If I'm not doing anything else for the day, it's at least a very brief morning sitting practice with my coffee or tea. So that's how I came up with what I call my devotion potion. As I'm sipping my coffee or tea, with each sip, I'll take a breath and I'll speak something like a line from a hymn to a favorite deity, a statement of intent, or I might simply just sip and do my energetic visualizations. So that egg shielding that I mentioned earlier, really great time for that because you're already sitting, having your morning cup of joe anyways. Why not add some magic into that? And there's also something kind of fun and beautiful about working with energy as you're feeling that caffeine start to spike up for the day. So just in terms of schedule, my recommendation is to start your day with shielding first. And then towards the end of the day, you can cleanse off anything that might have kind of stuck to you or latched on throughout the day. So if you're keeping regular warding and shielding up, you'll have less need of cleansings to do at the end of the day or in the following days. Really, how I want you to think about all of this is a form of spiritual hygiene, right? So it's regular, it's routine, it's maintenance. Now, if you're experiencing some sort of significant trauma where you're doing all of these things and it's still not quite enough, again, look at expanding upon each of these modes and methods, or simply dedicating more time to it. For example, this little coffee ritual that I'm mentioning, if that's just a few minutes of your morning and you're going through a particularly tough time, you might want to shut off your phone, come to your meeting a little late and dedicate, a good 20, 30 minutes to doing that. So that's why I think it's really useful to be very flexible with your practice, not force yourself to be super rigid. And of course, if you have the time and desire to incorporate other practices like that deity work, offerings, extended ritual work, during your lunch break. That's really wonderful. This is a really chaotic season for me for work. I work in politics as my day job, so I typically can't often get away with taking my full lunch hour. But when I can, I try to make an effort to sit at the altar, do something a little more intentful, and I find that I usually have a better day. I do. Right. Go to our next slide, please. So before I open up to discussion or questions, I just want to leave you with this. Why is defensive and spiritual self-care work important? It's not only because I care about all of you beautiful spirit workers out there, although that truly is the core of everything in my work, but it's also because we need you. The world needs you for the current fights and the fights ahead. Your family needs you, your friends, your coven, or really whomever you share your community with. And you're not just valuable because you're necessary, but let your necessity in this world remind you that you deserve to be safe, happy, healthy, and protected. So that's going to be your suggested intention for yourself going forward. If you agree, feel free to drop a blessed be in the chat. All right. And with that, wow, got through that pretty quickly. So I'm happy to stay on, answer questions or chat. I didn't get to see anything previously in the chat. So if you dropped a question or comment in there, feel free to pop it back up in. Yay, lots of blessed bees. See, we're manifesting already. We're setting ourselves up for success. Music, yes, music is a wonderful aligner. In terms of defensive magical practice, uh, I will often use specific types of music for shielding work. If anyone else is a big heavy metal fan out there, really powerful grinding music while I'm putting those shields up feels very personally fulfilling. And then when I am doing my cleansing work, I go with a little something gentler. So I have many personalities: heavy metal for shielding, and Enya when I'm taking my lovely spiritual baths. Okay, what do you mean by escapism? I think of it as necessary. That's a great question. Yeah, so um, I think of escapism differently than taking a beat, taking time to yourself, and just sheltering in place for a little while. Absolutely. We absolutely need to take time to recover, maybe shut ourselves off from the world for a little bit of time. But escapism to me means completely withdrawing, right? You're going into full hermit mode, and not engaging with your community or allowing your loved ones and community to engage with you. Hey, do I ever use the LBRP? So that's the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram that comes from ceremonial magic. Yes, I absolutely do that. I should do that more often. So thanks for reminding me. Very accessible, effective ritual for folks to look into. Can I incorporate this into my yoga practice somehow? Yeah, absolutely. Especially those visualizations where you're not necessarily using any words. If you're taking a class, for example, no one can hear what you're thinking or visualizing. So great opportunity for that. Okay. Liz says, I've never heard of different lights working differently. Can you say more about various colors? Yes, so I'm coming to that from color theory and the idea of color magic. Many systems of color magic in many various traditions. So you'll see a million different associations for different colors. I would say play around with it, see what works for you. Someone earlier in that chat mentioned that they do purple for psychic shielding work. I think that's lovely. Purple's associated with royalty. So especially when you're looking at reclaiming your power and your personal sovereignty and station in life, it's a great color to go for. If you feel deeply spiritually attacked, life is coming at you from all sides, and you need to go on the lockdown, I will visualize a kind of a red iron ore flowing around me instead of that kind of more membranous golden egg. So yeah, play around with it, record your experiences, and be a magical experimenter. Let's see. Any other rituals you would recommend for starting out? Well, I mean, if you are not already engaged with a regular sitting meditation practice, it's the belief of many tradition, many magicians that meditation is the start and end to anything. If you're not practicing that, start there. But daily rituals beyond ones that I've specifically mentioned here. I'll often work with sigils, incorporating work with crystals and stones. When I mentioned building that kind of army of spiritual allies, I'm not just talking about, angels and ancestors, but the spirits of the stones that you're working with, the spirits of the plants that you're using for your spiritual bath, right? So approaching it from a very pantheistic mindset that we're in a world filled with spirits. Let's see. Oh, someone said I stopped using shields and use nets now. Yep, that's great. Yeah, kind of. The language is a little different, but that's sort of what I mean when I'm talking about having a shield that's a membrane. It can catch things coming through, but also creating a shield for the things that you don't want through. Yes, great point. I also like the idea of visualizing an actual net, especially for the sea witches out there. Let's see. I think I'm caught up. Earlier question about shielding practices for cars and homes. Yeah, so kind of touched a tiny bit on this about putting a piece of obsidian by electronics. You could also incorporate stones for cars and homes. I typically have a set of stones that I will place in the corners of each room into my house. Those really small tumbled stones, they don't need to be big. And I'll kind of create a sort of a giant crystal grid around my whole home for them. And monthly or quarterly, whenever I can remember, I'll take them down, purify those stones, and set them back up again. Um, for home in particular, so kind of the same technology as that golden egg shield, you would expand upon that idea for the home. So your home has a spirit too, whether it's a full single family home or an apartment or whatever it is. You're visualizing the energetic membrane of the home and you're seeing it firmed and fortified. You can get really creative with the visualization there. You can imagine disembodied knights in shining armor patrolling your property. That's a popular one, or kind of energetic spears and barricades jutting out everywhere. I've seen some really beautiful, creative, guided visualizations for things like that. Yeah, someone said drawing pinnacles on the wheels of your car, constructing a circle around your vehicle. Absolutely. We talked a little bit about sigil work a minute ago. A big fan of using sigils. Very basic pentagram, star without the circle. Extremely protective, extremely easy. Sometimes with that egg shield I mentioned, I'll trace that in kind of a visualization of fire before me and hold that with me throughout the day. Can also do the same across your windows, your doors, if you really want to be nice and fortified. Yeah, sure. Let's do one last question if someone has one. Black tourmaline in the car. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful stone. All those kind of deep, heavy stones, really wonderful for protection. Yes. So thanks again, everyone, for having me. I truly mean it when I mean that I care for all of you here, and I want to see you safe, happy, healthy, and protected. So that is my blessing for you all. So thanks, everyone, and thanks, Llewellyn, for having me today.